She invited everyone to her wedding except me. The caterer's call changed that. Family only, my cousin Jessica said, not meeting my eyes as we stood in my grandmother's kitchen during Sunday dinner. You understand? I nodded, used to being excluded, my hands steady as I continued cutting vegetables for the salad no one would thank me for making. But the morning of her wedding, as I sat alone in my apartment, the caterer called. Miss Warner? The bride's credit card declined. We're at the venue, but we can't serve without payment. Your name is on the contract as guarantor. My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. I'm sorry, what contract? The catering agreement for the Morrison-Blake wedding. You're listed as the financial guarantor. Jessica Morrison said you'd agreed to back the payment if there were any issues. The room tilted. I set down my mug carefully, my mind racing through possibilities. I never signed anything. I have your signature right here, dated 3 months ago. Look, we need payment in the next 30 minutes, or we pack up and leave. The wedding starts at noon. Send me the contract, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. The email arrived within seconds. There it was, my signature on a guarantee for $15,000 worth of catering. Except I'd never seen this document before. But I recognized the signature. It was perfect. Too perfect. Traced from the birthday card I'd signed for Jessica 6 months ago, the one where I'd written a heartfelt message about being proud of her, even though she'd barely acknowledged me at the party. I pulled up my banking app. My savings account, the one I'd been building for 3 years to finally buy a house, showed a balance of $15,243. Enough to cover it, barely. My phone rang again. This time, it was Jessica. Amy. Her voice was frantic. Where are you? The caterer says there's a problem with payment. I'm at home, I said evenly. Where you didn't invite me, remember? This isn't the time for your hurt feelings. Just pay them. You agreed to this. I never agreed to anything. You signed the contract. Jessica, we both know I didn't sign anything. Just like we both know why you really didn't invite me. Silence. Then, just pay it. I'll pay you back. Like you paid me back the $1,000 for your car repair, or the $2,000 for your last apartment deposit, or the $5,000 for your nursing degree that you dropped out of. Amy, please. Everyone's here. The whole family. It'll be humiliating if there's no food. The whole family. All 73 members of our extended clan, except me. The cousin who'd helped raise Jessica after her mom died. The one who'd tutored her through high school, driven her to college interviews, held her hair back at her 21st birthday. The one she'd systematically excluded from every milestone since she'd decided I wasn't successful enough to acknowledge. Why did you really not invite me? I asked. She sighed. Blake's family is particular. You're a librarian. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You live in a studio apartment. It would have raised questions. Questions about what? About our family's status. There it was. The truth I'd always known but never heard spoken. I was the embarrassment. The one who chose books over business, who found joy in simplicity rather than status. I need an answer, the caterer texted. 20 minutes now. I thought about all those Sunday dinners where I was invited to cook but not to sit at the main table. The family reunions where my name was mysteriously left off the photo labels. The graduations, promotions, celebrations I heard about secondhand. I'll handle it, I told Jessica and hung up. But I didn't pay the caterer. Instead, I called my friend Marcus, a lawyer who specialized in fraud. Forged signature on a financial document, he said. That's a felony. Email me everything. Then I did something I'd never done before. I drove to the wedding. The Riverside Country Club was exactly what I'd expected. All white columns and perfect lawns. Trying so hard to be old money it practically screamed new. I parked my decade-old Honda between a Mercedes and a BMW, smoothed my simple sundress, and walked in. The scene inside was chaos. 200 guests milled about the reception hall, confused. The catering team was packing up. Jessica stood in her $8,000 dress. I knew the price because she'd asked me to lend her $2,000 toward it. Tears streaming down her face as Blake's mother gestured wildly at the empty buffet tables. I approached the head caterer, Martin, whom I recognized from his profile photo. Miss Warner. He looked relieved. Thank God. Can we process payment? May I see the original contract? He handed me the folder. I examined it carefully, then loud enough for nearby guests to hear, said, This signature is forged. I never agreed to guarantee this catering. The silence rippled outward like a stone in water. Jessica rushed over, her dress rustling. Amy, what are you doing here? Apparently, I'm the financial guarantor for your wedding. Strange, since I wasn't important enough to invite. Aunt Patricia, the family matriarch, materialized beside us. Amy, dear, what's this about? Jessica forged my signature to guarantee her catering costs. When her card declined, they called me. That's ridiculous, Jessica hissed. You promised. When? Where? Who witnessed it? I pulled out my phone, showing my text history with Jessica. Here's every conversation we've had in the last 6 months. Show me where I agreed to pay for your catering. Blake appeared, his face red. What's the holdup? My family is getting restless. Your bride committed fraud, I said simply. She forged my signature on a financial document. Blake's mother, Eleanor Morrison Blake III, she always used the full name, swept over in her designer suit. What is this person doing here? She looked at me like I was the help. This person, I said, is the only reason your son's wedding would have had food. Except I never agreed to pay for it. Then pay for it now, Eleanor demanded. We'll sort out the details later. Would you pay $15,000 for a party you weren't invited to? The crowd of relatives had grown. Uncle Stuart, Cousin Michael, Great-Aunt Rose, all the family who'd celebrated everything with Jessica while I remained invisible. You weren't invited. Aunt Patricia's voice was sharp. Family only, I quoted. Apparently, raising Jessica after her mother died doesn't make me family enough. Gasps echoed through the room. Jessica had told everyone I was traveling, unable to attend. She raised you. Blake turned to Jessica. You said you barely knew her. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling through years of photos. Here's Jessica at my apartment every day after school for 6 years. Here's me teaching her to drive. Here's her high school graduation where I'm the only family member who showed up because everyone else was too busy. Here's. Stop, Jessica pleaded. Please. Like you stopped taking my money, my time, my love, while telling everyone I was nobody. Martin, the caterer, cleared his throat. We need to leave in 10 minutes if there's no payment. Eleanor turned to me. Name your price. My price. I laughed. My price is 8 years of being excluded. 8 years of Jessica taking my money while being ashamed of me. 8 years of forged signatures and lies. Marcus had texted me back. File a police report immediately. This is clear fraud. Here's what's going to happen, I announced. Jessica is going to admit, in front of everyone, that she forged my signature. She's going to explain why she didn't invite me. And she's going to pay back every cent she's borrowed over the years. This is extortion. Eleanor shrieked. No, this is consequence. Jessica's father, Uncle Pete, stepped forward. He'd been absent most of Jessica's life, reappearing only when she got engaged to money. Jessie, just tell the truth. Jessica looked around the room, at Blake's appalled family, at our confused relatives, at the caterers waiting with empty serving trays. She started, then stopped. Then, in true Jessica fashion, she tried to flip it. Amy's always been jealous of me. She couldn't handle that I was marrying well. I played an audio recording from my phone. Jessica's voice filled the room. Blake's family would freak if they knew my broke librarian cousin raised me. Just pretend you don't exist for one day. It was from a voicemail she'd left by accident 3 weeks ago, not realizing she'd called me while talking to her friend. Blake stepped away from Jessica. You told me your family was in business. That your cousin Amy was some distant relative you barely knew. I am in business, Uncle Pete said weakly. Used cars. Eleanor made a sound like she'd been stabbed. And I'm the librarian, I said. Who runs the literacy program Jessica volunteered at to impress you? Except she never actually volunteered. I signed her in and out for 6 months. The revelations kept spilling. Once I started talking, I couldn't stop. Years of silent hurt poured out. The recommendation letter from the city councilman. I wrote it. My friend Tom is on the council. The internship at the marketing firm. My college roommate owns it. The apartment in the nice neighborhood. I co-signed the lease. Why? Blake asked me, genuinely confused. Why help someone who treated you like this? Because she was 11 when her mom died. Because I promised my aunt I'd take care of her. Because I loved her like a sister. My voice cracked. Because I kept hoping she'd remember who was there when everyone else was too busy. Jessica was crying now, her makeup running in streams. Amy, The caterer needs an answer, Martin interrupted gently. I looked at Jessica, then at the room full of family who'd never noticed my absence, at Blake's family who'd judge a librarian as less than, at the entire spectacle of a wedding built on lies. Pack up, I told Martin. No payment is coming from me. You can't, Jessica wailed. I can. And I am. I turned to the crowd. For 8 years, I've funded Jessica's life while being erased from it. That ends today. Uncle Pete tried to salvage things. We can all chip in. With what? I asked. The money you never had for Jessica's school supplies? Her prom dress? Her college applications? Where was this group fund when she needed groceries or textbooks or therapy after her mom died? Silence. I looked at Jessica one last time. You want to know the saddest part? I would have paid for your entire wedding if you'd just invited me. If you'd just acknowledged that I existed, that I mattered, that I was family. I walked toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and Jessica, the house you made fun of me for not owning yet? That down payment I've been saving? It would have been yours as a wedding gift. All you had to do was treat me like family. The last thing I heard as I left was Eleanor's voice. You lied about everything. The wedding is off. 3 hours later, as I sat in my studio apartment with a cup of tea and a good book, my phone exploded with messages. The wedding had imploded. Blake had called it off. Jessica was being sued by the country club for the venue rental. The family was in chaos, finally realizing how much I'd done over the years without acknowledgement. Jessica texted, "You ruined my life." I responded, "No. You ruined your wedding by building it on lies. I just stopped paying for those lies." She tried calling. I didn't answer. Uncle Pete called. Aunt Patricia. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years. All suddenly remembering I existed now that there was drama to discuss. I turned off my phone and went for a walk to the library where I worked. My coworkers greeted me warmly. The kids in my reading program ran up to show me their new books. Mrs. Chen from the afternoon literacy class brought me homemade dumplings, as she did every Saturday. This was my real family. The people who saw me, valued me, included me. A week later, Marcus helped me file charges for fraud. Jessica was arrested at Blake's former apartment. He'd kicked her out immediately. The forged signature was a felony, but more importantly, it started an investigation that revealed she'd done this before. 3 other credit cards in my name. 2 small loans. All forged, all hidden. The family rallied around her, of course. I was the villain who'd destroyed poor Jessica's life over petty revenge. But the law was clear. Fraud is fraud, even when it's family. Especially when it's family. 6 months later, Jessica took a plea deal. Community service, restitution, probation. She had to pay back everything, not just what she'd stolen, but what she'd borrowed over the years. The court made her get a job, a real one, not the fake consulting position she'd claimed to have. She works at a library now, ironically. Not mine, I made sure of that. But she shelves books and helps with children's programs, doing the work she'd been too proud to acknowledge I did. The family still doesn't speak to me much. I'm the one who broke ranks, who chose justice over silence. But I sleep peacefully in my studio apartment, surrounded by books and genuine friendships, no longer funding someone else's fantasy. My savings account is growing again. I'll have that house down payment by next year. And when I do buy that house, I'll host dinner parties for people who actually want me there, who see me as more than a wallet with a forgettable face. Jessica sent one last letter from her court-ordered therapy. I'm sorry. I got so caught up in being someone else that I forgot who really loved me. I kept the letter but didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned by the very people who should have protected them, are better left as ash. The warmth they provide in destruction is sometimes worth more than the crossing they once offered. My name is Amy Warner. I'm a librarian. I drive a 10-year-old Honda. I live in a studio apartment. And I'm no longer anyone's financial guarantor, emotional support, or invisible foundation. I exist. Visibly, proudly, independently. And that's worth more than any wedding invitation.